This episode is brought to you by cloudpano.com. Adding more revenue to your business is simple. Offer more value. With CloudPano, you can create 360 tours and present them to your clients quickly and efficiently. It only takes 5 minutes to create a VR tour with cloudpano.com, and your clients will be thrilled. You can now avoid monthly fees with their new lifetime license option. For a limited time, you can save $100 on a lifetime license using the code Shooting Spaces at checkout. Join the movement and join CloudPano today.
This is Shooting Spaces with Rich Baum and Brian Berkowitz.
Hello and welcome to Shooting Spaces. This is Brian from New York.
And Rich Baum from Sacramento, California.
Nice. And what's going on, Rich? How's it going over there?
Oh, it's just going great, man. Life is just a dream. And it's picking up pretty good. And, it's always like that. January and February tend to be slow. November, December tend to be slow. You can always look back in your calendar and see what you were doing last year. And normally you don't feel so bad. You go, oh, I was slow last year too.
Yeah.
But got a lot of projects, not only real estate, but a lot of new home building and all kinds of stuff going on. So I'm very excited, very busy, and life is busy too.
That's it. You just got to keep yourself busy, whether it's shooting or personal. But
and you got your kiddies.
Yeah.
You busy there?
Yeah, keeps me on my toes, but it's good.
Yeah.
The little ones started school now, so they're both out of the house during the day when I'm not shooting. So it's a little quiet, a little more quiet here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not bad. And you have some personal projects you're working on, you told me. So it's...
I have been. One thing we discussed at the PFRE conference last year was doing personal projects. And I think it's really important for everyone. There's two things I want to say. One is to go out there just on a free day, and you can shoot anything. It doesn't even have to be Shooting Spaces related. It can be anything, people, nature, whatever. Get out there and shoot. But you can get out there and shoot things that are not necessarily paid jobs that are going to pay for themselves right now, but things later. Go out and, like I did a personal project. I went downtown Sacramento, shot some of the venues, some of the iconic locations and views, had a great time, and I might be able to use them in the future, license them. And the other thing too is when you're on a shoot, and you're just doing a regular mundane real estate photography shoot, be sure to take a moment to take a couple of photos for yourself. You could be a vertical photo, it could be a detail shot, or just something to mix it up. And that way you'll be able to hopefully get maybe a design shot out of a real estate shoot. So always go out there and take some time for yourself and slow the F down. We've all got to remember.
Yeah, you know what? You never know where these personal projects are going to lead to. So you go out, you shoot it, and I have something that I'm working on for 2020 that I've been thinking about for a while, for a couple of years for that matter, and I never thought to do it as a personal project until PFRE. So I started about a week or two ago, getting the wheels turning and calling on some people that I know to make some connections for me to allow me to gain access to some places that I want to shoot and try to put together this whole series, which we'll see how it goes. And when it's done, we'll when I'm a little further into it, I can tell you a little bit more about it publicly, for that matter. All right, cool. So let's move on to today. Today we have an Ask the Guys question, which we need more of. So I will start off with saying, send us your Ask the Guys. And I'll probably end also with saying, send Ask the Guys. But we need some Ask the Guys. We only have a few left. So please send us some questions. Think of them. Send them over. However you can send them over. Any way works. And we'll try to answer it and get to it as quickly as we can. So this question is from David Besnette, who I think has submitted an Ask the Guys before a while back. And I can look while I talk and see if he has, because I have a list of all the questions here. I don't know. Anyway, I think he's from Colorado, and he's submitted an Ask. No, I don't see him here, but I think he has. Anyhow, nevertheless, let me play it for you because I think it's a good question and it's great. Hopefully we'll be able to answer it for people who are looking into getting into maybe luxury real estate or into shooting bigger properties. So with that, I will play his question now.
Hey, Rich and Brian, welcome back from the summer, and it's great to have you guys back podcasting. My name is David Besnette, davidbesnette.com. I'm in Denver, the Denver area. And I do have a question for you. This summer, I've spent, fortunately, more time, and it seems like it's growing, doing luxury homes. These are 6,000 to 8,000, sometimes even more square feet. I'm looking at a magazine for Vail, Colorado right now, and some of these homes are 12 to 15,000 feet, and that's ideally like what I'd like to get into doing more of. But they take a lot. They take a lot out of me. So my question is how do you guys tackle a home of that caliber? There's a lot of challenges. It's not just the 4 white walls where you bounce do a flambient. Oftentimes they have huge, huge rooms with tall ceilings and huge windows and just, grand views. So my questions are, how much lighting or not would you use for the entire home? What would your strategy be for going through each room? How much time would you spend with the lighting? Or would you just, for the sake of speed, do more ambient? How many photos would you?
Okay, well, we allowed for 90 seconds and David got cut off. So that's the end of his question. But I think we got the gist of what he was trying to get at, Rich, with his question. So me personally, I mean, I love shooting bigger properties. I shoot a lot of them. I shot 11,000 square foot property last week. I have an 8,000 square foot property coming up next week that is going for 8.6 million. So I do a lot of these luxury properties, and I know you have. I also do. Look, for every $8 million property I shoot, I also shoot a $500,000 house. So being in the industry that we are. We get a nice variety, but I love the bigger homes, especially because I very rarely, on the real estate side of things, shoot just photography. I do the Matterport, I do drone and all that. And especially with the Matterport, I charge by square footage. So when I go out and shoot, a 8,000 square foot house or a 10,000 square foot house, and I'm doing a Matterport on that, I'm getting almost $1,000 just for the Matterport alone before I even talk about photography and drones. So, those houses end up being a $1,500 a day, $1,700 a day for me. So I love doing those type of houses. But before we go into, I guess, that type of business side of things, when you shoot a house like that, Rich, a huge house, I mean, are you using the same techniques, or do you change it depending on your location, or kind of just improvise? What's your thought process and mindset when you go into a house like that?
Yeah, that's a tough one to say, because every property, every listing has its own uniqueness about it, and it could deal with my agent. Does my agent deserve or have to have better quality? I also am in the. I don't want to say everybody should do this, but when I get into a really, really nice house, it just turns into a whole different ball game. I am going to spend a lot more time dealing with it. So when you're dealing with a large property above 8 to 10,000 square feet and multi-million dollars, I'm just going to ultimately spend more time. And I bring that up to my agent. I'm going to go, hey, I hope you're okay with me really knocking it out of the park. And they're usually okay with that. But no, I generally go, I just want to say one thing, especially to the new people, the people that are getting into this, that are still nervous at different shoots. And that could be nervous from a small shoot to a medium shoot to the very nervous for a large shoot. When you do this long enough, and hopefully you do it and get good enough, it's like I never worry about anything anymore. I know that no matter what the house is, no matter how big it is, if it's 20,000 square feet, I'll do fine on it. Some houses I'll do better than others, but I can bail myself out in Photoshop, and I have the ammunition I need because I've taken the shots that I need to be successful. The brackets, the individual shots, the extra shots. So I say, get your ammunition. But one thing you had brought up about equipment, I want to say one thing that has been my salvation is that I got a lot of equipment. And when I go on these huge shoots, a couple of things I recommend. What I use, I usually bring 2 speed lights with me, 200 AD200s. I bring a couple of Evolve 360s. These are all different size lights, 200 and then 360 watt seconds. And I have a 400 watt second, and I have my bad boy 600 watt seconds. And I put my bad boy 600 watt seconds on a 12-foot stand, so I can put it way up in a big foyer, a 2-story foyer that it just is like this light sucking hole. If you got enough power, it really, really helps. Now, I'm not saying you need to use that on everything, but I want to tell you, even if you don't use it, bring it in your car. If you can at least get a 600, for those times you need that extra power to really help you.
It's funny. Speaking of that, I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Mm-hmm. I've noticed myself in probably the last 2 or 3 months, I've been using my Explorer 600 more than my AD200, even in rooms that don't need it. I found the quality of light on that 600 is just far superior to that of the AD200. And I found, obviously, being more powerful, it gives me a lot more light. If I'm shooting, it doesn't even have to be a big great room like David might be referring to, but even like, especially everything nowadays is open concept. If I'm just shooting a living room that just might look into the kitchen, that 600 might give me enough light on a flambient shot to light both rooms and not have to do 2 separate shots. Mm-hmm. But so it's the power and it's the quality of light. Just for some reason, it looks much better than the AD200. And I'm finding that I'm not using that AD200 as much. I shot, 2 days ago, I shot a 800 square foot 1-bedroom apartment in my neighborhood, and I used the 600 for all the flambient shots, and it looked great. The quality of light coming right out of that one shot was beautiful, and I don't get that with the AD200. I'm not sure exactly what it is. Maybe it's the power.
Well, a lot of it, I believe, is the size of the source, where you've got a speed light, which is about this big, and you've got an Evolve 200, which is about that big. Mm-hmm. You've got the red round head, which is about this big. Yeah. And you've got a 360, which is about this big. I use a dish on my 360. Sure. And then you have your 600, and my 600 is about this big.
Yeah, with the reflector.
So you're getting a bigger, with the reflector, and you're getting a bigger, broader area. So I think that inherently is going to give you a better quality of light, a softer, bigger area, source area.
Yeah, so I will tell people, if you do have both, like I do, give it a try, because you might find, like I do, that you like the quality of light, you're getting better out of the 600. And, now I have one of those Peak Design backpacks. I throw a 600 in a backpack, and now I start, I have 2 AD200s that I used to carry with me, but I started taking a 600 on all my shoots, and I find I'm using that almost every shoot versus the AD200. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now back to where you were before I interrupted you.
That's okay. No, that's what it's all about. Change it up. But I want to say too, so I think to have good power really, really helps me personally, especially deal with the super large areas. And I'm not going to have to worry as much about anything when I've got this extra power I really need. I always bring this stuff in the car, so it could be any location I have that if I need extra power. The other thing I want to mention is, if you're from Colorado and you're looking at magazines that are ski towns like Vail, you're going to have wood cabins, and these wood cabins are going to have huge 2 stories and vaulted ceilings and wood on wood on wood, red, orange, brown wood. You got to have not only power, because power is the key there, because each different color sucks more light. Like white is 1 power when you reflect off of white. If it's off-white, it takes a certain amount of power away. You get wine color, it takes like 50-60% of the power away. And you get wood. Sometimes you can bounce right off the wood, but sometimes you need to have something white to bounce off of. So you can get into a shoot-through umbrella. You can get into a reflector. I point my light straight up, and I just handhold a reflector, and it bounces off the light, and that works really well. So it's really a bag of tricks goes along, and experience goes along with shooting these bigger locations. And the most important thing is to have faith that your techniques, your bag of tricks, the things you have, the equipment you have, and your ways of dealing with issues is going to be your success. If you have the right ammunition, you can get home and you can fix anything. And that last technique is let the ambient do the heavy lifting. Well, I'll tell you something, that has bailed me out of more locations, more situations. And where I used to say the quality of light is much better if you put a light in all those areas that you need. But in all honesty, the more I do it, the more I teach it, I find that the ambient, if it's prepped correctly, the right color corrections and the right everything that you want to do to it before you mask it in, it's really hard to tell the difference. So I really recommend let the ambient do the heavy lifting for these.
We got to put that on a t-shirt.
Let the ambient do the heavy lifting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get a t-shirt
what's your
made.
techniques?
We'll get a t-shirt made, and you can wear it around Vegas for the conference in 2020.
And also a big cross through no more flambient. It's all flash ambient blend.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Mr. B, what is your technique?
Yeah, so
because you shoot a lot bigger houses than I do.
Sure. Well, I want to add something to what you said. Especially being in Vail or that area where you're shooting a lot of wood on wood. You talked about shoot through umbrellas or shooting into a reflector. One thing, if you remember, when we started this podcast a couple of years back, we had Aaron Kraft on, who is a photographer of the year, and he's in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And it was a pleasure meeting him also in Vegas, by the way. He's a really, really cool guy, and he's like 6'7" or something, really tall, huge guy. And he spoke to us about the technique of using a V-flat on a shoot and shooting into a V-flat, which is very similar to a reflector, but V-flats are primarily used for, I guess, portrait photography or fashion photography. And he talked about using V-flats for what we do in order to give him something to reflect light off. And actually, he inspired me on a shoot to do that. And when I did my first shoot ever for Gucci, I actually shot into a V-flat and used that as my main light source because I was shooting all the rooms in the Gucci store were big property, were gigantic rooms. And I was shooting just little parts of it and I had nowhere to bounce light. So I set up a little V-flat and if you're not familiar with what a V-flat is, you can just do a Google search and, Rich is showing you for those people who are watching on YouTube. But it's basically a big whiteboard that is folded that looks like a V and it kind of stands up on its own. And they're really tall, usually like 7-8 feet tall. But it gives you a big source to bounce light into. And there's a company, I actually own one of them, and it's actually right behind me. I wish I can show you. It's right here if you're watching YouTube. That's how small it is. They make flats that you fold up. So you can see how small it is here. This thing, you put it together by Velcro, and it goes back and stands about 6.5 feet tall. So they're made and if you ever watch our show on YouTube, that thing has been behind me since we started. So it sits right there, and it folds up to about 6.5 feet tall. It's made by a company called V Flat World, and I think it's only like $175 or $200 for that. And it folds into, I guess it's like 3.5 by 3.5. You can just fit in the back of your car, and then it folds out into a huge V flat. So, if you're shooting those type of properties, those big rooms where you have nothing to bounce off, try the V-flat and see how it works. And I can put a link in the show notes to them because this one's portable. You can't take a regular V-flat with you. It's like 8-7 feet tall. And try that for reflection. This episode is brought to you by HD Photo Hub. With modern marketing tools for your clients and a powerful back office to help you stay organized and efficient, HD Photo Hub is the secret weapon of successful real estate photographers everywhere. When you register with promo code Shooting Spaces, you'll get a free total marketing kit for your first property. Check them out at hdphotohub.com. HD Photo Hub, where great photos become powerful marketing. That's hdphotohub.com.
Let me ask you, so the V-flat, does the benefit come from if you've got it like a V, and if you're not on YouTube, I apologize, but if you put it in a V and you put the light in front of it and bounce it, now you've got two light sources going out. The reflection goes in two sources. So is it canceling out its reflection, its shadow abilities?
The wider you open the V, it's going to make a bigger source. The closer you bring the two ends to each other, it's going to obviously make a smaller source. So depending on what you're looking for, if you bounce a 600 into a V flat that's open pretty wide or as wide as you can get it before it falls over, it's going to give you a nice big light source. And, if you go back to our shootingspaces.net blog, I wrote an article on this, and just search like Gucci or V flat. I have some behind the scenes images that I used on that Gucci shoot, shooting into a V flat. So that'll give you, I'll post a link on the show notes too. So that'll give people a good idea as to what I did in that store. Inspired by Aaron Kraft and what he said he did for the spaces by him, because he shoots I guess lodges and wood type cabins out in Jackson Hole. So that's a good idea. And that's something that could be useful to use in these bigger properties. Now, that being said, how convenient is this for real estate photography? It depends on a time crunch. You're doing what we do, we're a little more rushed than most people. But remember, if you shoot an 8,000 square foot house, you're not shooting 5 of those in a day. When I shoot a house that size, I'm there all day. That's the only job I book in a day. I'm not booking another one after it. I plan all day there. So you do have a little bit more time to work with. And on that, when I shoot, I charge by image. So if I'm doing an 8,000 square foot house that has, 8 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms, I'm not shooting all of it because it's not necessary to shoot all of it. I mean, I know my MLS here on Long Island only allows for 20 images anyway. But nobody needs to see 75 shots of the house. It's not necessary. And, the truth of the matter is, from a marketing perspective, that might hurt the listing, because every house, no matter how nice it is, has things that, whether it's a laundry room or it's the garage, that might not necessarily be appropriate to show. So, I charge by image. I switched to that model, I think, a year or two ago, give or take. And my package starts at 20 images. So now, granted, I'm usually not shooting 20, but then I sell it in blocks of 10. So let's say they want 30 or 40 at that point. Let's say even if I'm shooting 40, I can go out and get 40 images in, 3 hours. If I want to set up a V flat in a big room and it takes me 4 hours, then it's okay, because when I'm shooting a house that size, I block off all day. I'm making enough money that day that I don't have to feel the need to get another shoot or two in that day. And look, I don't shoot. I'm not a volume shooter anyway, so it's not like I'm running from house to house to house to house every day anyway. But on houses like that, take your time and slow the F down, as everyone said in Vegas, and figure out the best technique for that room. If we're shooting a big, great room that has, I've shot great rooms with 40-foot tall ceilings, it's going to be hard to light that room, if it's a gigantic room. So, for me personally, in a room like that, I would probably just, bracket and do it hand blend in post after. And, have to adjust colors accordingly or whatever the case is. But, there's no reason for me on site to stress myself out with trying to light a room where a room alone is 600, 700 square feet. You know what I mean? So just go in there and, don't feel the need to have to stick to the technique that you use all the time, because that's what and improvise a little, but then I might go from a great room where I'll shoot 5 image bracket right into the kitchen next door where I'll bring the flash out again. So every room is different, but I think, slowing down and figuring out the best technique and not feel the need to rush through it because you have to get to a few more listings when you're shooting houses that size. Just keep that one house for the day, book that one house. And this way you can slow down and do what you need to do and make sure you deliver. Because when you deliver a good job on a house like that, more houses like that are going to come. But if you rush through it to get to the next house, it's going to look like crap. And you're not gonna keep those higher end luxury listings coming in if you're delivering work that looks like it was rushed for your agents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, be pragmatic. Don't get overwhelmed. Really get the shots you need to get, and you may also want to tackle certain rooms when the light's better and when you're feeling better that you want to do it. I tend to like to just go right from the front door on, but that's just me. And really, really don't forget, get your ammunition, go out and get a bracket, take a bracket of shots just to have it. It doesn't really take much more time, and you might be able to use it. You might need it later. Don't forget any rooms.
That's one thing I learned from Mike's WAMA series, where architecture meets art, is everything he taught in all 3 of his series, no matter what he did at the end of every shot, was he took a bracket. Mm-hmm. And he said, I just want to have it because you never know what'll happen where I'll need it somewhere. So, yeah.
And don't feel that you need to change your camera settings and do an auto bracket, whatever. Whenever I bracket, I always do manual bracketing. I just change my exposure, my shutter speed. So you can do it, and it's really simple. It's easy to have. Be sure that you get an understanding with your agent, what you really need, have a discussion. But most of all, don't let it intimidate you. It's going to obviously intimidate you when you start doing these huge, big properties, but you'll find that you're just, I'm not saying they're like the small properties, but they're just rooms, they're spaces. But now you have an opportunity, get an understanding. If it takes you longer, are you going to be rushed? Is the agent going to be standing there going, well, you take an hour on all your other houses, why are you taking 3 hours? Well, don't, kind of premise that beforehand with your agent. Say, hey, I normally take this long. I'd like to take a little longer because of the significance of this house. And I rarely would find that you'll have a problem with an agent or a client going, oh, I only want you spending an hour here. So I guess there's certain changes, certain houses that they'd say that. But anyway, I think I want to commend you for getting into this kind of stuff. And I think that's one time we'll all be getting into bigger houses, more money and whatever. And just really cover your butt, get your bag of tricks out, and have your equipment and have get your ammunition. I think you can't go wrong there.
Yeah, I don't think you should let the size of the house or the sale price of the house intimidate you. I mean, it's the same thing as shooting any other house. Look, I charge by image. So if I shoot 20 images of a $500,000 listing, or 20 images of a $5 million listing, yeah, the $5 million listing is going to look nicer, and the house is probably going to be more grandeur, but it's still 20 images. So it might take me a little longer because the rooms are bigger, but it's not going to take me that much longer than it would normally. I'm going to add some other techniques, but it shouldn't take you that much longer. And don't let it intimidate you. A room is a room. I guess it's the bigger rooms that you're not used to dealing with, where even a 600 watt flash, for instance, might not cover. And at that point, you either shoot it all ambient, or just take multiple flashes and you're combining them in post anyway. So what's another shot or two that you have to add to the mix at that point, especially for bigger work. But once you start doing this, and your agents see that you're spending the time on these higher end luxury listings, that's kind of how it was for me. All the agents are all friends with each other. And once you shoot for one luxury realtor, one other one sees that you're shooting for her or for him, and they say, okay, I need to get him, and then it kind of trickles down from there. So, if you're at the point where you have a connection or can get into that, first luxury listing, get in there and do a kick-ass job, because then the rest, it's gonna be a cyclical effect where everything just kind of, flows into each other, and you start getting a lot of that higher end luxury work. So, what was the biggest property you've ever shot, Rich?
I think 20,000 square feet.
Wow.
But that was one time, and I've shot quite a few 10, 12,000 square feet, but I don't do them all the time. My main thing is really about 25 to 4,000 square feet. That's my daily bread and butter. I've got a bunch of shoots new homes coming up this year, though, that are going to be, I've got 20,000 coming up, and quite a few over 10. So yeah, it's going to be a big year.
20,000. Wow. Gee, I can't imagine.
It's hard to even imagine paying the electric bill. I mean, come on.
It's funny because I do let's say
you've done 20,000. No?
I've never done that big. No, I mean, I do 8 to 10 regularly, and I've probably done about 14 or 15, the biggest, but 20, I can't even imagine 20,000. You need 2 days there.
I did. and it was way when I was probably in my stage, in my progression, where our callers, our message giver was at, where I was still trying to get information on how would you shoot this. I remember I just done Scott Hargis' video, and let's just say it didn't turn out as well as I had hoped. So I hope yours turns out better than mine. I was able to, you're only as good as your ability to bail yourself out in Photoshop. I mean, we all screw up. And, the difference between an amateur and a pro, I tell people, is an amateur realizes they made their mistake at home. A professional makes the same mistakes, but we realize we're making a mistake on site, and we can fix it on site. So that's a big thing. You just got to realize what you're doing.
Cool. And, another thing which I started to mention a little bit earlier, and that goes in line with our Ask the Guys a few weeks back, and then our conversation with Matthew, is if you're doing big houses like this too, add some additional services too. Because, if you're just going to a house and just doing photography, you're going to end up with a couple more bucks than a regular house. But, do you want to leave a house like that getting $350, $400, which you would get for photography, or you don't want to leave a house, coming out with $1,500 for the day? So, throw in some drone photography, throw in some video, throw in some Matterport if you do that. And, the Matterport for me for those houses are incredible, because I just got the new iPad, and I'll tell you, Rich, like, it sped up my Matterport processing time so much. I did an 8,000 square foot house last week in an hour and a half on the Matterport. And all of a sudden, when I'm charging square feet and I'm doing an 8,000 square foot house and I'm getting close to $1,000 and I bang it out in an hour and a half, that's a lot of money. So, add the services in, whether it's iGuide or floor plans or drone photo, drone video, or even just regular interior video. If you're ready on that, on site on that property, especially an 8,000 square foot property or bigger, maximize the services you're offering there, because that can just start bringing your bill up to places where, you can do one of those a week and you're a happy camper. So
yeah, good stuff.
All right, cool. So, David, I hope we answered your question as best as we could. And I hope that you start getting into these resort properties, I guess, for, what are they, 8,000 square foot and above out in Vail. Because, when you start doing these big properties, I mean, it's a drag, and, it definitely takes its toll on you. You leave those houses, or I leave those houses, and I'm just beat. It just beats the crap out of you. But they're fun. They're a lot more fulfilling, and you get to see some of the most incredible. I see some of the most incredible stuff on these properties that you wouldn't believe. Even stuff like art collections and stuff that these people have in these homes that are just phenomenal. So, definitely, I wish you luck, David, in trying to break into that luxury market out by you and getting to these resort properties.
Mm-hmm. Good. Excellent stuff, man. Great. So what are we're running out of time there, Brian?
Yeah, we're running a little low on time. It was a little bit of a
Okay.
shorter episode, but that being said, I said it before, I'll say it again. Submit your Ask the Guys questions. We need them. I'm just going to keep knocking people over the head with this, because we need some questions.
It's good stuff.
And that's it. So I guess spring is around the corner, so we're going to start kicking into full gear before we know it.
Yeah, so just enjoy these slower days, and it'll be hot. It'll be late twilight. So I'll get home at 10 o'clock and have to get the photos out by 2 a.m.
Work on your marketing now.
I can't wait.
I don't know what you're doing, but I've been doing some incredible stuff with my marketing, and I've been attending a ton of networking events recently, which have been paying off significantly for me. So, now when it's slower and you're not shooting every day, use this time to figure out some marketing strategies for your business going forward for 2020 and start putting them into effect, because once you get busy, you're not going to be able to do that. So take advantage of this time you have, like you said, Rich.
I'd love to hear a podcast on that, marketing opportunities. So maybe we'll do that in the future.
No, it's not a bad
That's
idea.
good. Yeah, I can interview you, because I could use that information. Yeah,
I'll answer what I can.
Okay. Well, listen, from Brian and Rich, New York and California, I want to just say thank you for joining us on Shooting Spaces podcast. And whatever you guys do, go out and shoot some spaces. Ready to step in front of your competition? Invest in the IMS 5 camera system and offer your real estate clients an all-in-one property listing package. It supports video, drone, and still image capture as well. With iGuide, your real estate photography business becomes a complete real estate marketing service without having to change your workflow. Visit goiguide.com and enter promo code SSWinter2020 in the reference number section to get your first 3 standard iGuides free when you purchase the iGuide IMS 5 camera system.
This has been Shooting Spaces. For more episodes, visit shootingspacespodcast.com and visit our education site at shootingspaces.net.